Okay, so I started this project by removing the roll cage. There's 6 points on the frame that it connects. There, and then you got to remove the bottom bolts from the doors, and then the back here, and of course you remove the remote reservoirs. I've got snorkels and stuff, so I had to disconnect the snorkels from the frame. Any kind of wiring that you have that crosses up, of course, mark it, label it, make sure you know where it's going back to, and you're going to have to cut it to remove the cage. Alright, we'll move on to the next video shortly. Okay, so now what I've done is I've removed all the side skirting. Basically, you're going to use a Torx. Looks like that. Size is going to be a T40. I don't know if you can see that. T40. And then you're going to need some plastic rivet removers. There's going to be, it was about 5 plastic rivets per side. You had one here and a couple down here. And then this panel right here that goes across looks just like this. Okay, this one here is going to have one hidden in the background that's going to go through this hole right here. Your seatbelt goes up through here. But you're going to remove that one, and then you'll have another one down here and another one on the back side here. Okay, and then that piece just kind of pops right off. So basically, long story short, remove all the screws from the siding there, and this is what you get down to. I'll start up on my next step. Alright, so as you can see, now I've removed the bed area. Primarily for the bed, it's all going to be T40s. You're going to have some going through the centers and back here. A couple in the top. And then you've got the ones that bolt across the center here. And then one on the top over on this side. Pretty self-explanatory for most of the mechanically inclined folks what I'm going to do next. At this point, you've got a pretty wide open plate here to remove the engine. It's unfortunate for me, I've got to do it, but it's got to get done. So, yep, there it is. All there, wide open. So I'll see you when we've got things tore down a little closer. And we'll get down to the brackets where we actually separate this thing from the transmission. Okie doke. Okay, so now I've removed the cross members there that hold up the bed. Both of them are gone. I've also removed the intake completely, which as you can see opens it up quite a bit. I've removed both springs from the exhaust so that I can separate the manifold when I'm ready. The next step here is actually going to be the drive belt and the clutches. We're going to be removing those next so that we can separate the transmission from the motor. So I'll get back to you once I have the cover off, and we'll get into the tricky part, the clutches. Everybody's changed the belt, I'm sure, by now. If you're bloating your motor up, then you probably busted a couple of belts. Anyways, so that's where I'm at right now. Soon to see the cover off. Okay, so the secondary clutch, or the one you use to release the belt to remove it. Okay, so the secondary clutch, or the one you use to release the belt to remove it, slides right off. That one's real easy. The primary is one you either A, need to buy a puller for, or B, if you're like me and work on cars for a living, I have a snap-on harmonic balancer pulley remover, and I also use the Chrysler balancer pulley remover rods, and it threads right in, and I'm going to be able to pull this thing off of the tool I had pre-existing in my garage, so I don't have to go buy Polaris' tool. So I use the threaded bolt part of the balancer puller. It threads right into the stem housing, which is slightly larger than the bolt thread pitch, and use the rod to push against the backside, which is effectively how the Polaris tool works to remove the clutch. So I'm about to remove this and see how my homemade tool went. Check back with you guys in a little bit. So as you can see, my tool worked pretty good. There's how it works essentially. You've got the rod that goes through and connects to the other piece there. And this pushes on the back side. As you thread this rod in, it pushes the clutch off. It worked out great, and I'm very thankful I didn't have to spend the money. Alright, so after removing the clutch, you got 2 bolts. You go through these holes right here. 2 go through these holes right there. That holds it to the transmission. And on the front side, you've got this mount bracket. Remove the bolts from that mount bracket, and remove the bolts from the engine so that it's easier to pry it apart because it is pretty tight. You're going to have a plug right there through where our plug plugs into your stator cover. You're going to have to disconnect that. Don't forget about it, you'll break it. And then you're going to have another plug on the bottom side of the intake here. Let's see if I can find it here. There it is. This plug right here, you're going to have to disconnect. And then you're going to have a ground strap on this one. And then right here, you're going to have the power strap. Aside from that, it's pretty much plug and play. You got a crank sensor right here, a little 3-wire plug. It plugs in on the back side over here by the transmission. That's going to have to be disconnected. Then from there, you disconnect the radiator hoses and stuff of that sort, quite obviously, and raise it up on out. And there it is. Now, that's what happens when you're a dumbass. Right there, big hole in the motor. Thanks guys, have a good day.